Texas is enormous. Nearly 270,000 square miles of desert, forest, swamp, and coastline. Most people see the cities, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. What they miss are the places in between. Texas has more ghost towns than any other state in America. Over 500 at last count. Some are just names on old maps, but others are still standing. Empty schools with swings that still move in the wind, a town drowned under a lake that rises from the water during droughts, a cursed iron boomtown where a widow's prophecy came true down to the last word. We are counting down 17 of the strangest and most unsettling, and if you make it to number 1, a port city destroyed, rebuilt, and destroyed again, with camels in the middle of the story, you will understand why some places in Texas stay empty for a reason. These are the 17 creepiest small towns in Texas that locals warn you never to stop in. Number 17, Uncertain. The town that doesn't know its own name. 85 people live in Uncertain, Texas. That is its actual name. It sits on the shore of Caddo Lake, Texas' only naturally formed lake, where 400-year-old bald cypress trees rise from dark water draped in Spanish moss. Nobody agrees on how the town got its name. One story says residents wrote "uncertain" as a placeholder on a township application and the government made it official. Another says the Texas-Louisiana border ran through the lake, and people genuinely did not know which country they belonged to. That confusion, conveniently, let them dodge taxes. The town incorporated in 1961 for one reason: to legalize beer sales and attract fishermen. Its only airport was called the Flyin' Fish, run by a man nicknamed Beer Smith, supposedly because he looked like a long-necked beer bottle when he played football. A 2015 documentary about the town was simply titled Uncertain. Even the filmmakers couldn't resist. Number 16, Glen Rio. The town split by a state line and killed by an interstate. You could gas up your car in Texas, walk across the street and buy a drink in New Mexico. Same town, different state, different laws. Glen Rio straddled the border and its entire economy was built on that gap. Texas taxed fuel lower, so gas stations lined the Texas side. New Mexico allowed liquor, so bars sprouted on the other. This arrangement worked beautifully through Route 66's golden age. Then Interstate 40 bypassed the town in the 1970s. By the 2000 census, 5 people lived there. Today, the Little Juarez Diner, the State Line Motel, and a streamlined modern Texaco station stand exactly where they were left. No residents, no services. Just wind through empty buildings and the distant hum of the highway that killed them. Number 15, Medicine Mound. The Comanche healing ground nobody could save. 4 dolomite mounds rise from the flat farmland of Hardman County. The Comanche used them as ceremonial sites and believed they had healing powers. Anglo settlers founded a town in their shadow. At its peak, Medicine Mound had 500 residents and 22 businesses. A fire in the early 1930s gutted the buildings. The Depression finished the rest. The post office closed in 1951. The mounds, though, they have been there for millennia. Every building humans erected around them has crumbled. The mounds remain exactly as the Comanche knew them. The land does not care what you build on it. Number 14, Aldridge. The sawmill that burned down 3 times. Hal Aldridge built a sawmill in the East Texas piney woods in 1903. By 1911, the town around it had 76 buildings, 500 workers, and a railroad spur. Then the mill caught fire and burned to the ground. Aldridge rebuilt it, this time in hand-poured reinforced concrete, designed specifically to meet fire insurance requirements. It burned again in 1914. And again in 1919. He packed up and moved to El Paso. By 1927, the town was dead. Today, 4 concrete buildings still stand deep in the Angelina National Forest, accessible only by a 2.5-mile hiking trail. Vines cover the walls. Sunlight filters through the canopy. You have to admire a man who poured concrete against fire 3 times before he quit. Number 13. Lobo. The Ghost Town. 3 Germans bought for $20,000. Named after the Mexican wolves that once roamed the area. A 1929 earthquake destroyed its hotel. A 1931 earthquake hit again. By the 1980s, the aquifer that sustained the town's cotton farms was pumped dry. And in 1991, the last residents left. The town sat empty for a decade. Then a friend of 3 artists from Frankfurt, Germany, spotted a hand-painted "Town for Sale" sign while driving past on US 90. They pooled their money, bought Lobo for $20,000, dug new wells, and started hosting experimental film festivals in the ruins. After 20 years, they put it back on the market for $100,000. Over 400 inquiries. Proposals included a kangaroo farm, an escape room using the entire town, and a veterans retirement commune. Their only requirement, the buyer had to actually do something interesting with it. Number 12. Independence, the town that lost Baylor University and never recovered. In the 1840s, Independence was the wealthiest community in Texas. Sam Houston lived there. Baylor University was founded there in 1845. Then the town's leaders refused to let the Santa Fe Railroad build a line through their community. The railroad went elsewhere. Students couldn't reach Baylor. The university relocated to Waco in 1885, and Independence collapsed. What makes it stranger, locals have long attributed reports of sleeplessness, headaches, and visions of deceased relatives to electromagnetic field convergences beneath the town. Historians credit economics, but 4 ruined columns from the original Baylor female building still stand, and the church where Sam Houston was baptized in 1854 is still there. The town made one decision, and it lost everything. The folk explanations came later, trying to make sense of a wound that simple stubbornness inflicted. Number 11. Shafter. The Silver Capital. Where the Andromeda strain came to life. Between 1883 and 1942, the Presidio mine produced over 30 million troy ounces of silver, roughly 90% of all silver ever mined in Texas. Nearly 100 miles of tunnel were carved under the Chinati Mountains. The town swelled to 4,000 people. Then the mine closed in 1942, the county's military bases shut down after World War II, and Shafter collapsed to 11 residents by the 2000 census. The ruins were so desolate that the 1971 film The Andromeda Strain used Shafter as the doomed fictional town of Piedmont. The opening scenes of There Will Be Blood were shot inside the actual mine tunnels. Spanish prospectors had explored these mountains as far back as the 1600s. 4 centuries of people pulling silver from the earth, and the mountains look exactly the same. The people are the ones who disappeared. Number 10. Marfa. The mystery lights nobody can explain. In 1883, a rancher named Robert Reed Ellison saw glowing lights in the desert outside Marfa. He assumed they were Apache campfires. He went to investigate. Nothing. Over 140 years later, people are still seeing them. Orbs that appear, split, merge, bob, and vanish. Studies have been conducted. Proposed explanations include atmospheric refraction, car headlights, swamp gas, and ball lightning. None have fully accounted for all behaviors. Here's the detail that complicates things. The lights were documented 20 years before the first automobile appeared in West Texas. The Texas Department of Transportation maintains an official viewing area on US Highway 90. The lights still show up on clear nights. Marfa itself has become a quirky art destination. It is now a town where you can get a $300 meal and an unexplained desert phenomenon on the same evening. Number 9. Toyah, the town where everyone vanished mid-sentence. The oldest town site in Reeves County. At its height, Toyah had 4 churches, 2 hotels, 2 banks, a drugstore, and 2 lumber yards. Today the buildings are still standing. The high school towers over the landscape. Homes sit with furniture still inside. Cars rust where they were parked. The school swings still move in the wind. The decline was gradual, ranching consolidated, the railroad moved on, the water dried up. But the visual effect is not gradual at all. It looks like the entire town was evacuated in a single afternoon and nobody thought to come back for their things. That is what unnerves people about Toyah. Not that it died, plenty of Texas towns died. It is that nobody cleaned up afterward. Number 8. Saratoga and Bragg Road. Mound, the ghost road where a headless man searches for his skull. The road is 8 miles long, arrow straight, unpaved, and pitch black at night. It cuts through the Big Thicket, the densest forest in Texas. The nearest landmarks on the map, besides the National Preserve, are 4 cemeteries. The Santa Fe Railroad built this line in 1902 to haul oil and cattle from the Saratoga oil fields. The tracks were pulled up in 1934. What remained was a road with no residents, no lights, and no reason for anyone to drive it after dark, except to see the lights. Orbs the size of a small pumpkin, bluish-white or sometimes green, bobbing along the old roadbed. They have been reported since before the tracks were removed, when there was no vehicle traffic to explain them. The dominant legend says a railroad worker was decapitated and his ghost walks the road with a lantern, looking for his head. Hardin County made it official. The road is now designated Ghost Road Scenic Drive, a county government named a road after a ghost. If you are enjoying this so far, hit subscribe, because we are about to get into the ones where the history gets heavier. Number 7. Barstow. The floating specters of the dead farm town. George Barstow traveled from Rhode Island to West Texas with a plan: irrigate the desert using the Pecos River and build a farming empire. It worked. Over 1,000 people settled. Then in 1904, the dam broke. Droughts followed, crops died, and the population vanished. What remains is a cluster of crumbling buildings, including the shell of a once vibrant hotel with paint still fading on its walls. In local folklore, visitors report something else. Groups of robed figures hovering above the ground in the surrounding fields, apparently conversing without making any sound. Nobody has produced an explanation. Nobody has produced a photograph either. But the stories persist. Sometimes the creepiest thing about a dead town is not what left. It is what people say moved in. Number 6. Thurber. The company town behind barbed wire. At its peak, 10,000 residents from 18 ethnic groups. An opera house that seated 650. A 200-room hotel. An ice factory considered the largest in the Southwest. Full electric service by 1895. And every single piece of it, every house, every store, every nail, owned by the Texas and Pacific Coal Company. Workers lived behind barbed wire, paid in company scrip. In 1903, Thurber became the first 100% closed-shop union city in America. Then coal became obsolete, ironically because Thurber's own mine manager discovered a massive oil field nearby in 1917. The last load of coal came out in 1926. Here is what makes Thurber different from every other ghost town on this list. The company did not abandon it. It dismantled it. Building by building, brick by brick. Sold every piece of a city of 10,000 people until nothing remained. The cemetery is still there, over 1,000 graves, and a single smokestack visible from Interstate 20. The dead stayed. Everything else was taken apart and trucked away. Number 5. Jefferson, the most haunted small town in Texas. In the 1870s, Jefferson was the second largest inland port in Texas. It thrived because of the Great Raft, a massive logjam on the Red River that backed up water and made the channels navigable. Then the Army Corps of Engineers removed the raft. The water dropped. The riverboats stopped. Railroad Baron Jay Gould had offered to bring his Texas and Pacific Railway through town. Jefferson refused. According to legend, Gould signed the Excelsior House Hotel guest book with 3 words: "The end of Jefferson." The town collapsed. What it left behind are grand Victorian buildings soaked in dark history. The Grove, built in 1861, is considered the most haunted home in town. The Jefferson Hotel has reports of dolls that move, messages on bathroom mirrors, and the ghost of a woman in room 19 stabbed and left to die in the bathtub. ghost tours are now the primary industry. Jefferson survived by becoming a destination for the thing that almost killed it: its own past refusing to leave. Number 4. Terlingua, the ghost town that came back wrong. During World War I, roughly 40% of the mercury mined in the United States came from Terlingua. The Chisos Mining Company ran the operation out of one of the most remote spots in Texas. When mercury prices collapsed, the mines flooded and the company went bankrupt. By the 1940s, the town was dead. Adobe walls crumbled. The cemetery, handmade crosses, stone markers, baked in the Chihuahuan desert sun. Then artists moved in. Eccentrics followed. In 1967, someone organized a chili cook-off as a joke. It became one of the most famous food competitions in America, drawing thousands to a place with no electricity, no cell service, and barely any rules. The Starlight Theater restaurant now operates in a former movie theater among the ruins. Terlingua refused to stay dead. It just came back as something the original residents would never recognize. The miners are in the cemetery. The artists are in their studios. They share the same dust. Number 3. Old Bluffton, Texas's Atlantis. Bluffton was settled in 1852 along the Colorado River in Llano County. About 50 families, a cotton gin, a hotel, a bank, a cemetery. In the 1930s, the federal government informed those families their town would be underwater. The Buchanan Dam was coming, part of the New Deal, and the rising lake would swallow everything. Morticians were hired to exhume over 300 graves and relocate them to higher ground. Written records and personal testimony were used to identify the dead. 58 bodies could not be identified. They were reburied as unknowns. In 1937, the dam was completed and the water rose. Old Bluffton disappeared. Then, during a severe drought in 2009, Lake Buchanan dropped 26 feet. And the town came back. Tombstones broke the surface. Foundations of homes emerged from the sand. The cotton gin stood in the open air for the first time in over 70 years. Archaeologists scrambled to excavate before the water returned. It did return. Old Bluffton is underwater again now, waiting for the next drought to remind everyone what was taken. Number 2. New Birmingham, the widow's curse that swallowed a city. A sewing machine salesman from Alabama named Anderson Blevins traveled through East Texas in the 1880s and saw iron ore. He envisioned a rival to Birmingham. Within 3 years of selling its first lot in 1888, New Birmingham had 2,000 residents, 400 buildings, 2 iron furnaces, electric lights, and a 65-room luxury hotel called the Southern that cost $60,000 and hosted guests from 28 states, including Jay Gould and former President Grover Cleveland. On July 14, 1890, a grocer named S.T. Cooney shot and killed General W.H. Hammond in the street. Hammond's widow, Ella, described as a red-haired beauty, demanded the townspeople lynch the killer. They refused. When Cooney was pardoned, she ran through the streets with her hair streaming behind her, calling on God to leave no stick or stone standing in this mushroom town. Within 3 years, the furnace had exploded. The Panic of 1893 had gutted the economy, and the town was abandoned. The Cherokee County Banner declared the Iron Queen dead on July 4, 1893. The hotel burned in 1926. The last building was demolished in 1932. Today, a historical marker on Highway 69 and some furnace ruins are all that exist. The forest reclaimed everything else, exactly as the widow demanded. Number 1. Indianola, the city that God destroyed twice. A granite monument stands on an empty shore. Behind it, Matagorda Bay stretches flat and gray to the horizon. Wind comes off the Gulf steady and warm. There is a cemetery. There is a fishing marina. There are historical markers. That is it. No buildings, no foundations, no ruins. Just grass, water, and markers explaining what used to be here. What used to be here was the second most important port in Texas. Founded in 1846 as Indian Point, Indianola became the gateway for thousands of European immigrants entering the United States. It was the seat of Calhoun County. Its population exceeded 5,000. In 1856 and 1857, 2 shiploads of camels arrived at the docks, part of an experiment ordered by then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis to use the animals for military transport across the Southwest. Camels, in Texas, unloaded at a port that would not exist within 30 years. On September 16, 1875, a hurricane struck Matagorda Bay. It destroyed nearly every building and killed more than 300 people. The survivors rebuilt. For 11 years, the second Indianola stood. In August 1886, another hurricane hit, stronger than the first. What the storm did not destroy, a fire did. The railroads left. The shipping companies left. The families left. 5,000 people. Camels from the Middle East. 2 hurricanes, a fire, and 300 dead. And now there is a granite monument, the sound of waves, and nothing else. Some places do not come back. Not because they cannot, because the land has made it very clear they were not welcome. Texas has more ghost towns than any other state, over 500 scattered across 250,000 square miles. Most are just a historical marker and some mesquite growing through a foundation. But the ones on this list left something behind. For me, it is Old Bluffton, a town that drowns and resurfaces over and over like a memory the state cannot suppress. Which of these surprised you most? Let us know in the comments. And if this is your first time here, subscribe. We have more where this came from.